Welcome to the channel, everybody. This is another episode of Fate, and as you already know, I do different explanations on this series because it's what I use to give you more details about specific problems or more explanations about the specific topics. Today I'm going to talk about something very specific, that is maintaining your truck. How to maintain your truck and the stuff you have to replace to actually make this possible. But if for any reason you have any questions, you wanna contact me directly, go to Instagram, look for franciscoamaya YouTube, and you know what to do next. So we have this 2015 freightliner Cascadia with a DD15 engine, and there is nothing wrong with the truck. Truck is running fine, there is no problems, there is no check engine line, there is nothing, engine is running fine. But that doesn't mean then there is no problems with the truck, because there is stuff that has to be repaired. After a good inspection through the truck, I find out that there is some stuff that needs some attention. Doesn't mean that the stuff that we want to replace needs attention right now, but it could be a problem over the road, specifically for the trucks that go 2,000, 3,000, 7,000 miles trips all over the state. So today I'm going to tell you how you can spot that and what is the correct way to repair that, to maintain the truck. So if you come closer over here, I want to tell you what I'm going to do. So on this truck, I'm going to be replacing the water pump. In this case, the water pump doesn't have anything, but if you see over here, you can see coolant marks. Those are coolant marks that are coming from the water pump right here. That water pump over here has a little orifice where the coolant starts leaking when the water pump is getting bad. It is not leaking right now because that coolant is completely dry, as you can see it. This can go bad over the road. You can see how it's been spraying all over. So it is good to replace it right now before it is too late, because we never know. This truck has 700,000 miles, which means then we don't know the condition of this water pump, so we're gonna be replacing it. As well, I'm going to be replacing the thermostat, because it's good to replace the water pump and the thermostat. In this case, this Cascadia has the newer water pump with the thermo clutch over here in the front, so that one is super expensive. So this water pump costs around $500, so it's going to be a kind of neat repair. On top over here, there is this hose. I don't know if you can see it right here. That hose is a coolant hose. This is a coolant hose that comes from the coolant manifold. So that hose that comes from the coolant manifold, what it does is just to have the return from the coolant manifold. But the problem is that this hose goes bad. It looks like it's never been replaced, so I'm going to replace it. It breaks like for no reason. You wanna see then it breaks and start leaking coolant and you're broken over the road. So I'm going to replace it right now, because I'm going to prevent that from happening. Also, when I be doing the oil change, because it's normal to replace the oil, replace the filters. That is nothing new. Everybody knows we have to do that. On the other side, when I replace the belts, the tensioners, and the idler pulleys, those components gotta be replaced together. The belt, the idler pulleys, and the tensioner. Don't replace just the belts, don't replace just the tensioner, don't replace just the pulley, replace the whole thing. Also, I'm going to be replacing the front brakes. We have here all the parts that we're gonna be replacing. This is going to this truck right now to maintain the condition of the truck. We have the tensioner, we have the water pump, we have the thermostat, the seal of the thermostat because it doesn't come with it, the filters, the oil, coolant, the brakes, and the brake drums, because the brakes are very low and the drums seems like they've never been replaced. The truck has already 700,000 miles, as I said before, so it is good to replace the drum, because sometimes the drums they get stuck and you can use a hammer to get them loose. So when you get them loose, this can lose the balance and you can experience some kind of vibration on the steering wheel, and that is something that you didn't have before. That's the reason why you have to replace all this. Also, we have here the pulleys. These are the pulleys for the tensioner. This is a seal for the hose that we were talking about earlier there. So this is the hose we're gonna be replacing. This is the new type of hose because that one hasn't been replaced. That's the reason it looks a little different. And this little pipe over here, this is a seal and goes in the other end of that tube. So this seal has to be replaced too because it is a very important piece. This one doesn't leak that much, but it's good to replace it because you have to remove it in order to replace this hose. This hose is the one that goes bad very easy. In this case, a new updated hose in this area over here, this is the area where it goes bad, right here. So in this case, this updated hose doesn't have that cut over here. You can see it's flat, but the older hose has a little cut over here by design. The little cut is there, so there is where the problem is. So that's the reason why it's better to replace it with the updated hose so you don't experiment that problem. I have seen many trucks go down just for this hose over the road in Arizona, in California, here over the I-40, New Mexico, many different areas, just because this little hose. So that's very important to keep in mind to maintain your truck healthy. Also, if you ask me what other stuff has been replaced on this truck, in this truck I already replaced the radiator, the hoses, the tank of the radiator, coolant I replaced, but I'm going to replace it again because the coolant, it is not a reusable additive. So if you use the coolant once, you have to add new one again because the coolant is not meant to be reused. Once you get it out, you have to get new one. That will prevent many problems, many different problems, specifically with your engine. That will save you so much money. Just like 200 bucks, 300 bucks, the maximum to replace the coolant can save you thousands of dollars in the long term. And as I say, you know, filters, which is good, you have to replace every time you do oil change. You gotta replace the filter, the fuel filter, and the fuel water separator. If your truck has the water separator, some of them don't have, so it is an option. Also, it is something that most people don't do because the newer trucks don't have, is the coolant filter. I do replace the coolant filter every time I replace the coolant because the coolant filter retains a lot of the material, corrosion and stuff like that, and the engine produces over the time. So this filter can prevent problems, future problems, and that's the reason why I replace it every time I replace the coolant. And that's how you want to keep your coolant system very healthy, very clean. It is very important. For the newer trucks that don't have it, well, you have to replace just the coolant, but if you have a coolant filter, it's good to replace it. Also, other stuff then we replaced, then I actually replaced on this truck, is the clutch. The clutch has been replaced on this truck because it went bad, like around like 600,000 miles. The dryer went bad as well. It is just regular stuff that you have to repair to keep your engine, your truck running good. Air filter has been replaced, and stuff like that. Nothing major, nothing related to the engine, nothing that is like super expensive to replace. Everything is just basic maintenance for the truck. If you ask me, when do you know when you have to replace all these parts that I just mentioned? There is no way to know when you have to replace all these parts because for some trucks the water pump can go bad as little as 500,000 miles. For some other trucks can go bad 1 million miles. And as you can see, the clear example of this one doesn't have any problems. The water pump doesn't have problems because the bearing, it is not bad, and it is leaking, but it is not leaking right now. So it means that it leaks very small. So that means then, yeah, I mean, like, the water pump is getting bad, but it is not bad. So doesn't mean that I have to replace it, but I'm going to replace it just to prevent that problem in the future. So there is not a specific mileage when you have to replace the parts. The best way to know when you have to replace the parts is by inspecting the truck constantly and actually going down or going in the engine, like checking around the engine and seeing where is the weakest point of the engine. So, and then you replace whatever is bad. If you have a check engine light, you want to repair the parts, then the check engine light is telling you. But if you have mechanical parts, the engine won't tell you anything, the computer won't tell you anything. So that's why you have to actually check. It's very important to replace all the hoses every time you replace the radiator. And that's something that most people don't do to save money, but it's very important because the hoses can go bad and you can replace the radiator, and then later you gotta replace the hose over the road. It's going to be way more expensive. So that's right, you have to replace all that. When you replace the water pump, you replace the thermostat. It is not mandatory to replace it, but it's better when you replace the brakes, you replace the drums at the same time because it's better. So all those components that I mentioned to replace, it is not because you have to do it. It is just because it's better to do it. That way you can save money later. Because if you notice right now, with all these parts we have right now over here, if you ask me how much is all this right here, in total with all these parts, it's pretty much like $1,800. That's a lot of money here, and that is not counting the labor. That is not counting the labor and whatever any other extra parts that we could need. Then I don't think we will need, but it is possible. You never know when you're working. So when you see this number, $1,800, and you have to pay it right away, you wanna feel it, because that is going to be with labor and everything probably like around like $2,500, we can say, in total with everything. So that is going to be a big number just to prevent problems, because it is not that you have problems, it is just to prevent a problem. So it is up to you actually to prevent all this, because it depends on your budget on what you're going to replace. Because I can say right now, to save money, I don't have to replace the belts right now, I don't have to replace these, I don't have to replace the tensioner, and I will save a lot of money if I don't replace all those components. But the thing is, then these components that never been replaced, and to prevent future problems over the road, we are going to replace it right now, because the cost is going to be very minimal. It feels high because it's all together, but in reality it is not that large, because you are going to prevent a lot of downtime, and downtime is the highest amount of money you waste when you are driving a truck. I will tell you this: if you cannot afford to replace everything at once, go by sections. For example, you have to replace the water pump, tensioner, belts, and coolant, and brakes and everything. So you do sections. Okay, you want to replace the water pump. Okay, replace the thermostat, the tensioner, the coolant, and the belts, because everything is going to be together. This section is going to be together. You gotta replace the oil, replace all the filters together. You gotta replace the brakes together. Don't, if you wanna save money, don't replace everything at once. Just replace it by sections, and that way you can save money if you don't have the budget, I mean, at the moment. But that doesn't mean that you are getting less attention to your truck. You are doing it, but you are doing it in a specific time. If you're doing everything at once, it's better because you are going to prevent even that specific moment where everything can go bad. You are already preventing it because you already replaced all those bad parts, which weren't bad at the moment we expected right now, because right now parts are not bad, but within 1 week, within 2 weeks, within 1 month can go bad, and that's the reason why it's better to replace it at once. But if you cannot, as I say, replace it by sections. And I would recommend you that, for example, if you have to replace the radiator, replace everything that is on the radiator right now, and then replace everything on the belts and everything with this, and that's the way you wanna go. That way you wanna still keeping your truck in a good shape, and you wanna be saving money. And I mean by that is like, look, you are not going to save any money, but I mean by that, then you are not going to take the $2,500 right away. You are going to take like 1,000 right now, 1,000 later, and 500 at the end. So that's, if it feels better than spending it all at once. But it is just a general talk on what it is like to maintain your truck properly. There is so much stuff you have to actually do to maintain your truck, but this is the closest I can get you. I mean, like, I actually have to go right now and actually go down and replace everything because the truck gotta go tomorrow, and I have to do all this. And that's good because I know for sure that the truck won't have any problems over the road by replacing all this. And that's my point. That was my point to making this video, to let you know how it's like and how you can know when you have to do all this. The best way to do all this, as I say, is by inspecting your truck. It is not by recommendation. It is not by some mechanic is telling you. No, you have to actually inspect your truck and see what is getting bad, and then you have to replace it, because you, as an owner operator, you know how expensive are the repairs over the road and how crappy the jobs are over the road. Prevent that by replacing components at the moment when it is required. That's the best solution to any future problem. Anyway, this is all I have for the video. I hope you find this video interesting. If you don't like this video, you can mention whatever on the comment section, but if you like it, you can do it as well. You can do any kind of opinions, ideas, or anything else that you want to add to this video to help other owner operators, drivers, or company owners to know how to maintain their trucks better, how to replace the parts, when to replace the parts. That will help them a lot, and that's the reason why I am doing it. But if you comment, you wanna help, you wanna make this video even better than what it is right now. If you wanna ask me anything, as I said before at the beginning of the video, go to Instagram, look for franciscoamaya YouTube, and you can ask me anything there. Probably, who knows, I mean, probably you wanna be on the next video. You never know, right? Like the video, it's very important. Share it so everybody can find information on internet, information they're actually interested in knowing. And if for any reason you wanna help my channel, you can go to the description below where I have details on how to send support to my channel so I can continue making helpful videos for everybody. And thank you for watching.